Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? Who did I miss? P said, trolls already? Who woke them up? Do we have a troll? Grab the link, troll. Let's talk. Hello, Lori. Hi, Lisa. I missed Gaelic. I missed Just Me. It looks like we've got some presents rolling in before we even went live. Carol gifted 5 memberships. Lone Wolf gifted 10. We have a members live this week. Getting on with the birthdays. And I'm kicking my own ass because, I had the whole month of April to do the April birthdays. But like in March, we had the March birthdays in April. So I guess I started a trend without wanting to start a trend. Yes, it'll be a great members live. Sword just said they found a body of a woman that's been missing near Kahlberger's home in Pennsylvania. Dear Lord. I'm a big proponent of this. When someone gets caught, whether it be a bad check, a DUI, jaywalking, I guess you call it, or murder, they didn't get caught their first time. They've tried it before. Okay, Juicy Tequila Bobo has saved the day. Thank you, Juicy. She says, Brooks, I forgive you. We can extend my birthday into May. Yes, that's how we do it. Why not? Why not? So a lot of stuff going on with the Idaho 4. Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, and Madison. It seems that Kaylee's family wants the gag order loosened. Well, Zach, thank you very much. Zach just gifted 5 Crime Lines and Lies memberships. So the Supreme Court of Idaho said, no bueno, we're not doing it. Well, now we have another hearing coming up at the end of this month. And like every other month, it'll fly by fast. Now, before I get to it, I did put a video up this morning. If you get a second, please check it out. It's about the 7 bodies that were found in Henrietta, Oklahoma. It is disturbing. It is depraved. I'm losing my voice. That's okay. That's a blessing for some people. And today, during the lunch break for the trial, we'll get into it. Because in Oklahoma, if we make the news, it's because of a tornado, football, or shit like what happened yesterday. So we're going to be talking about that today during the break. With said 7, yeah, 7. It is sick. It is sick. Thank you, Aunt Carol. OJ, look, you got some more bacon money. OJ loves his bacon, I'm telling you. Some people say, well, he shouldn't have bacon. You shouldn't tell him no. You want to get all scratched up and shit? No. Christy said, I saw. That's horrible. So we will talk about that, but I'm not going to set up a separate stream because it's just too confusing. So anyway, we'll figure it out like we always do. It's a really crazy week for me because my son's wedding is on Friday. Not that they asked me to plan or do anything, but with this wedding coming up, there's a lot of unusual errands going on, but we're going to get through it. And I'm going to set myself a reminder that before Memorial Day, we're going to do a members live for May birthdays because we had a bunch of April birthdays. I felt like every day somebody was having a birthday. That's all right. I love it. We like to celebrate together, right? Thank you, Kathy. Lori says, I haven't heard about it. I know. Snazzy says, OJ and his cholesterol. I'm telling you. Yesterday, I had some jalapenos and I just put some jalapeno poppers together. And, you just put the cream cheese in them, nothing fancy, wrap them in bacon. So I'm letting them cool. And I'm like, what the hell is that sound? And I turn around and I'm looking around and I'm like, and where's OJ? So I go in there and there's the cookie sheet, on top of the stove because I could hear it rocking. And OJ was licking the grease off the bacon. Needless to say, I didn't have any poppers. I just left it there for OJ. Today is Mr. Snazzy's birthday, 52 years old. Let's sing our happy birthday and get on with the show. Yes, it's Mr. Snazzy's birthday, and he asked Mrs. Snazzy, are you going to be watching the trial today? And she said, yeah, it's Dr. Dorothy Lewis Day. We got a lot of stuff to do. I'll catch you when you turn 53 is what I would have told my husband. All right, let's get to it. I'm going to go through the comments first, and then we're going to start breaking this down. What do you all think, before I get to the comments, of Bethany trying to not talk to Brian's attorneys? I really can't say that I blame her because she's going to get called to trial regardless. But I want to hear what you guys think of it. So let's get to the comments and we will get on with it. Tracy Richards says, would you walk into a house with a knife to kill someone if there were multiple cars in the driveway? If he had planned it, hang on, I got to blow this up. That font 8 doesn't work for me. Okay. Tracy said, would you walk into a house with a knife to kill someone if there were multiple cars in the driveway? If he planned it, he would know dozens of people are in and out of that house 24/7. That is a high risk to take to go into that unknown to murder someone. I believe these murders involve multiple people. A fight broke out and the real people involved appear to be getting away with it. Well, I've often wondered if his brain isn't broke or something. More people live in that house besides Madison. Did you honestly think, Bushy, that you were going to take Madison out and nobody would ever see you? Just Me said it's risk versus reward. Perfect. CR said, I wouldn't. Bushy did, though. Flower Power says, I am curious. if she was involved at some point with Bushy, she's talking about Bethany here, either as a friend, a drug dealer, romantically, maybe she let him in inside that night for the DoorDash. It's frustrating that we have to wait for so long to find out. Even the preliminary hearing doesn't mean the hearing will happen sooner. We may have to wait years before we know something. And this is so true because here is the issue, and I'm going to bring our friend Glenn up to discuss this. The more that the defense keeps screwing around, they could very well convene a grand jury, which the defense cannot be part of, the families cannot be a part of. Grand juries are held in secret, and then they will put forth enough evidence to move forward. We'll never know. We will have to wait for the trial. Now, there'll be a pre-trial and there'll be an evidence hearing and stuff like that. But for the whole kit and caboodle, we have to wait for trial. Because the preliminary hearing, well, would be held in public. I'm not saying it's going to be videoed or on TV or anything, but we would get a transcript and we would know what they have to move forward. So let's bring up our friend Glenn and get to it. Hello, Glenn. How are you this morning?
Hey, Brooks. Good morning. Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. Did you do anything to celebrate May Day?
I did. I went and ran circles around the maypole.
Did anybody else put up a maypole?
It was there from last year.
Okay. All right.
So, I think that's what you do on May Day, right?
We used to do it like in elementary school, but I gave up.
Well, it's a tradition that's carried on into my late adult life.
I love it. And then don't forget, Friday is Cinco de Mayo. Now that is a holiday we can all get behind.
Oh, I already got the beer.
You got the beer? You going to have any only or anything?
Yeah. It'll be a big 3-day weekend. I'll make it.
Barb said my husband put up his maypole. Well, Barb, you lucky girl.
There you go. And it'll be there next year, Barb. That's the beauty of a maypole.
Yeah, it'll be there tomorrow morning if you play your cards right, Barb.
There you go.
So, now, what do you think about this? You girls know what I mean.
I knew what you mean.
Yep.
That was good.
So, like we were talking before the show, I'm really worried that they're going to keep screwing around and putting undue pressure on Bethany and Dylan, who we know are a huge part of this case. They're not going away. But wanting Bethany to testify at the preliminary. So when the attorneys say there's no need for her to testify at the preliminary, I'm really worried that they're going to go and have a grand jury and then we won't know. We have to wait. You there, Glenn?
Yes. So I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was directed at me. I beg your pardon. So, yeah, the grand jury would be a way that the prosecution could sidestep all of these actions from the defense. But I understand from Brooks that Bethany is going to meet with Bushy's lawyers
in Reno,
in Reno, in Nevada, where she is. So, that should probably settle everything, I would imagine. There's no reason, like Brooks said, for her to be at the pre-trial hearing. That's very, very unheard of, very unusual. What they typically do is introduce the witness testimony, and they use that. And then the defense has a chance to cross-examine her during trial. So it's not like the defense is having their rights taken away or anything like that. If it goes to a grand jury, the defense doesn't even get notice when the grand jury starts. they don't
They don't know.
they don't get to do anything. They're in the dark. But I'm with Brooks. I really don't want a grand jury. I want to see the pretrial hearing in court. So I think with her meeting his lawyers, that's going to take care of a lot. I still wish she wouldn't do it, but apparently, as Brooks was telling me, her lawyers have advised her, and well, they know more than me.
Well, what it comes down to is this investigator who's working with Ann Taylor. He is behind this subpoena. Okay, of course, Ann had to file it for him because he's an investigator. But he wants her there on June 28th, and it comes down to this story that was put out in that rag. It's called The Mirror. And they said they believe that she has exculpatory information that is material and necessary to the alleged killer's defense. If she refuses to appear, she could face a potential fine of $500 or $25 days in jail. So what they're saying is by her not coming forward with this information, it's hurting his rights because what she knows could clear him.
Yeah.
Now we have the FBI, Idaho State Police, the investigators with Moscow Police, the Behavioral Science Unit, and some others that worked on this case. They've talked to Brittany over and over.
Bethany.
What?
Bethany.
Did I not say Bethany?
Yeah, we both do it.
Oh man. Ever since you said Brittany that one day, I've been saying, see, it's all your fault. It's all your fault. Just like last week, you told me it was Wednesday.
I know. I heard you. I saw your show like a couple days later, and Glenn said it was Wednesday. It was funny.
Had me all screwed up. So they're saying that she's violating his rights by not coming out with this information, but she's already talked to the investigators. Now, according to this rag magazine, they're saying that she has told some other people, and I'm paraphrasing, that she saw a naked man running from the house at the same time. So what the hell do we have going on here? According to Dylan, we have a bushy ninja, and according to Bethany, we have a bushy ass. It can't
There's so
be
much
both.
there. Yeah.
It can't be both.
So I guess two things for me. One, if she has exculpatory evidence, that would be in her witness statement, right? And two, just because some publication comes up with a whack story like she saw a naked man running, I mean, when did we ever hear that? We never heard anything about that till now. And it's just my theory that the further away we get from, knowing what we know, like when they had the PCA released and everything else, that people just start making stuff up. I don't believe that. I just don't believe that. Unless no, I'm not even going to go down that hole, but well, okay.
Go ahead.
So if one of the girls had a friend over, maybe he did hightail it out of there. I don't know. But if that's the case, then surely that he would have called someone, or I don't know. I don't buy that. It's such a stupid story.
Well, and you and I have talked about this before. I will not be surprised if either Dylan or Bethany did not have a boy in their room.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to be surprised if there was more people in that house than just Dylan and Bethany. This is a Saturday night. Everyone had been out partying. Everyone came back. So it would be very unusual for just the four that were murdered and Dylan and Bethany to go to be in the house alone. There would be other people there. I'm not going to be surprised if they say there was other people there.
It's not a monastery, right? We know that. So and I'm not throwing shade or casting any judgment. It's just think back when you were that age, right? On a Saturday night. Yeah, you didn't go home and go to bed early. So
no, Lord, no.
That's very possible.
These kids go to bed when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
You
That's
know what I
exactly
mean?
right. Yeah.
But they have split no hairs with us since November that Dylan and Bethany are not only witnesses, they said they could be victims, but they have never elaborated on that. But they
Right.
said they are the key to the whole thing. Here's just a clip of what was said.
Surviving female roommates.
Correct.
You have not ruled them out as suspects?
Correct. So let me clarify that. No one has been ruled included or excluded as a person of interest and or a suspect. Everyone is still being investigated.
Are they witnesses?
They are working and talking with detectives, and they have been cooperative, very cooperative with detectives.
ISP won't say.
So, I mean, at one time, of course, we were actually doing this show. It was like the third or fourth show. And I said, I really hope their names don't get released. I really hope their names, their pictures. And seriously, during the show, I saw a comment in chat saying they were just released. It's in the Daily Mail. And I had to see it for myself. I didn't put it on the show. And I went, oh, God. I just think that is such dangerous journalism because at that time, Bushy had not been arrested. There was no extradition from Pennsylvania. No one even knew, except for his family, that he existed.
Yeah.
Everybody was talking about Jake and Jack and food truck guy and the guy that's on TikTok. And that's what everybody was talking about. Crazy Jeremy that wanted his DNA taken so bad. That's
Jack
where
S.
was leaning. Yeah.
Jack D.
Yeah. That's what they are all.
I think they did those girls a terrible disservice because effectively what they did, piggybacking on what you just said, is they said, hey, killer, you missed two. This is who they are. Right.
I couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, no one's been arrested. Nobody's sitting in a cell. That person could be like, I left two witnesses.
Whoops. Yeah. It was really strange. And I also, I'm really upset with the way they threw Dylan under the bus and that PCA. I don't think that all of that was necessary to have the PCA carry the day in court, and boy, she's just been under so much scrutiny because of that, and understandably so. I mean, I get it. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if they're involved, what they saw, what they didn't see, but I'd like to give them. We're always so concerned with giving criminals the presumption of innocence. I think that we should give two people who could very well potentially be victims and traumatized for the rest of their lives. I think we should, give them the presumption of innocence as well. But it sure is weird. I'll be the first to say for it to go so long before a phone call was made. But, I don't know why.
Anytime someone charges in here and says, innocent till proven guilty, I'm like, no, hang on. My robe is red with a Kansas City Chiefs emblem on it. It's not
That's
black.
right.
I'm
That's
not
right.
a judge. I don't work for the justice system. There's no innocent till proven guilty with me. If I'm reading a very well detailed document that basically puts him there and someone saw him, didn't see the knife, but there's a sheath next to the first victim, I can connect the dots. But I do think that they threw Dylan to the wolves, and I think that what they should have done in that PCA is maybe lined out the 8 hours. They left it way out.
Yeah.
And that leads us to a lot of speculation. And if I was a parent of one of the victims, I would be furious
No.
that 8 hours went without a phone call. I mean, I would be livid.
Absolutely. Can I talk briefly on the presumption of innocence thing? It's not a constitutional right. It's something that came about in the late 40s in the courts as a generally agreed upon component of what constitutes a fair trial. That's all it is. So they decided in 1947 that an additional component to make a fair trial would be that, there has to be a presumption of innocence. We don't have to presume he's innocent. The only reason we say allegedly is so that we can protect ourselves from lawsuits in case it's not true. But we don't have to presume innocence. And that's not in the Constitution. So I think it's important people know that.
Yeah, so remember that next time you come in here or you leave me a comment about innocent till proven guilty.
Thank you.
Popping up. And really, it should be that way because it's up to the state to do their job and put it all together for a jury. If it makes it to trial, because DAs don't want to go to trial.
Right.
Everybody
want to settle.
They want to settle. Christina said that 8 hours is why I have very little remove to give DM leeway, knowing the kids might not have died immediately and could have been helped by EMT. And that's a taste we can't get out of our mouth. She opened the door several times. She knew something odd was going on. She knew she couldn't get a hold of her roommates. She was texting them. She heard Xana crying. I'm just saying, me personally, and some people are way more forgiving than me, if it was my child in that house, and it's going to come out in trial because they're going to tell us the time of death. And people are going to be able to put the seconds and minutes together, and they're going to go, oh, well, if a phone call had been made, you could have saved Ethan. You could have saved Xana, Alicia said, ask any lawyer with a channel on YouTube. She does not have to testify in a prelim, and the PCA is already enough to take him to trial. Then why are they having the prelim? And her attorney advised her to talk to the defense. I don't think she has to talk to him either. She didn't have to say anything. She's got rights. She's not accused of a crime. And even if she was accused of a crime, she didn't have to talk to him. But she was advised to talk to him. They're going to have a meeting in Reno. And the judge is the one that wants the preliminary hearing so they can go forward. Because if that's all they've got, which is a lot, it's a ton. Let's not act like this is some weak document. Then, well, I mean, any good defense attorney is going to poke holes through it if that's all they've got. I mean, hell, we see a new expert on News Nation every night saying, if in this case, this is what I would do. This is what I would do. I would have this thrown out, this thrown out, this thrown out. I would cite this case, Supreme Court 1987, you name it. Everything from getting garbage from his curb to throwing out touch DNA to cell phone pings. I mean, they were like, you would throw it out with this and this, and like they're citing all these different cases.
Yeah, I think we have to remember when we hear people on Newsmax saying what they would do, that, well, they're on Newsmax, right? They're not in the court doing all those things in most cases. Newsmax.
It's News Nation.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, News Nation. They've always got a retired FBI agent that's basically just reading verbatim back a article that you can easily Google. And Mark Garagos, who is a monster, not gonna lie, he knows his way around a courtroom. So when he's like, I would have this thrown out, I'm like, whoop, all right. But they're going to move forward. Either it's going to be a grand jury or a prelim. At this point, what do you guys think is going to happen? Do you think they're going to have a grand jury convene in private? Or do you think we're going to have a preliminary hearing at the end of June? I don't know. While you're thinking about that, let's watch this.
Roommates survived the stabbing attack inside this house last November that left 4 other students dead. Bethany Funke was one of the survivors, and now she's agreeing to be interviewed by the defense in the murder case. Attorneys for the suspect, Brian Koberger, issuing a subpoena for Funke to testify. Koberger's legal team claiming Funke has exculpatory information that might help to exonerate him. An investigator for the defense writing, Ms. Funke's information is unique to her experiences and cannot be provided by another witness. Funke's attorney fought back. filing a motion to quash the subpoena, writing, even if Funk possesses exculpatory evidence, which remains unknown, there is no place or reason to present it at a preliminary hearing. But new court documents made public show she's now agreed to an interview with the Idaho-based defense counsel. Funk will testify in Reno, Nevada, where she's from, instead of taking the stand in the Lata County, Idaho court, where Kohberger's preliminary hearing is set to begin in late June. Ahead of the hearing, the prosecution expanding its team as they look to bolster their case against Kohberger. 2 deputies from the Idaho Attorney General's office, Jeff Nye and Ingrid Bate, have been appointed to assist in the prosecution.
Brian, what you doing?
Kohberger was arrested in late December, charged with the stabbing murders of Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, Maddie Mogan, and Kaylee Gonsalves. According to charging documents, their other surviving roommate, Dylan Mortensen, saw a male figure with bushy eyebrows, a mask, and black clothing in the home that night. Funk's account of that night is not included in those documents. Prosecutors allege DNA evidence, video surveillance, and cell phone records led them to Kohberger, who is pursuing a PhD at nearby Washington State University. He has yet to enter a plea, but has said through a former attorney he believes he'll be exonerated.
So, Aaron, what are attorneys thinking that Bethany's testimony might reveal?
Well, Hoda, while we have a better understanding of what Dylan experienced that night, there are so many unknowns about Bethany. Local police have said on the night of the murders, she was in her room on the first floor, but it's unclear if she woke up when the killer was inside. It's also unclear when she realized her roommates were dead, and we don't know what happened in the hours between the time of the murders and the 911 call. So clearly, the defense wants to know more about what she potentially heard and saw. Hoda.
A lot of unanswered questions there.
For real, there's a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah.
Lone Wolf, thank you for the super sticker. Lone Wolf says Bethany was offered immunity in those documents. Now, I only have the front page, which it's right there. It's hard to see. Let me get my specs on here.
Yeah. So only the prosecution can offer immunity, and this was all from the defense. So, that can't be true.
Well, and I just put up the wrong document anyway. I put up the document for the motion about the gag order. So look at me go.
Should have danced around your maypole yesterday.
I'll tell you what, my maypole's working. Hey, Lone Wolf, do you have those documents where they offered her immunity? Because is it immunity or is it like a proffer agreement? Because immunity means we know. Well, I'm not going to get into all of that. I just
immunity means she did something and she won't be charged, but that immunity can only be given by the prosecution, not the defense.
Yeah, exactly. It's a crazy situation. It really is. But when they say, when he says he's going to be exonerated, well, he's not the first defendant to say he didn't do anything. Hell, their mamas will get up there and say they're good boys.
Even in the face of all evidence, I've seen trials where the mother gets up and says there's no way my son did this, when the evidence was very clear that, he did. So
that, what's his name? Nathaniel? I can't remember his last name. You okay?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just
or something.
Uh-huh.
It was the case where he pretended to be an Uber driver and picked up that university student and killed him.
Yeah.
And even after the gavel came down
and
the jury came out unanimous saying he did this. And I mean, the evidence was overwhelming. The mom gets up to make a statement and the judge kept saying, you're not going to make any statements about innocence. She's like, well, I know he's a good boy because the way I raised him. And he's like, no.
Yep. It's, denial is a powerful psychological phenomenon. Our minds really work hard to protect us. And I can't fault someone for that. It's very sad. It's got to be sad. You think to yourself, I did raise him well, and he was a good boy. Everything she saw probably was good. And she, to see that, it just doesn't click with her worldview, and that's where this disassociation and the denial comes in. You see it a lot, and it's a very powerful thing. Denial is just not a river.
No, that's a very good metaphor. I like that. Jesse said, I think there is so much more to this. We have no idea. I think a lot of jaws are going to drop. And that is 100%, because anytime you have followed the case to the very end and it gets to trial and they're lining it all up, this is what happened at 12:01, 12:02, 12:03. They go through everything. This is everything that was going on. You're like, holy crap. We're seeing it right now with the Letitia Stout trial.
Absolutely.
And our jaws are going to drop. There's going to be way more to this.
Yeah. And remember how we all were trying to figure out what happened with the candle and then this and what, and now it's been laid out for us, and we have a fair idea. And the same thing's going to happen in this case. I think once we see the story, it's going to fill a lot of holes. And it's, I don't judge anyone. It's human nature to want to fill in holes, and there's a lot of holes in this story. So, that's going to happen. But I do think that some people take it and run a little too far with it. And I'm talking about channels and things that just try to get views. And then some people who let's say some people that aren't familiar with the case, they just take that and run with it and think it's true. And it just adds to all the misinformation. So many people think Bethany knew this or saw this or did that, or just because they called her. So that was a very successful tactic by the defense, in my opinion, to pollute the court of public opinion and the eventual jury pool. Don't fall for it, folks.
Well, and we know that we're going to have the answers in 2 or 3 years, but of course we're going to discuss it as it goes along. That's just what we do. So, when anyone says, oh, we'll find out soon enough. Well, what are you doing here?
That's a good point.
What are you doing here?
That's right.
If you're okay to wait 2 or 3 years, and that's up to you. Bonafide said there's not an excuse when you have a phone in hand all the time. And that's what they have to get to. What was the delay in calling 911? In the state of Idaho, that is a crime.
Right.
So, and that's going to have to be sorted out. Now, I do know there's a lot of people that, speak out for Dylan and Bethany, and they say, my God, would you leave them alone? Look, I don't bother them. I don't know them. They don't watch this show or anything like that. I don't want them, hung up by their toenails or anything. But someone's going to have to answer for this 8 hours, because on no planet does it make sense, especially with Brian right back outside the house at 9 a.m.
That was weird.
Yeah.
The balls on that guy, right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Jesus. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we get to, they want the gag order. They want the gag order loosened. They want to be able to talk about it, particularly Kaylee's family. I've never been through anything like this before. I don't want to go through anything like this. You never want other people's problems, period. You just don't. No. God only gives you what you can handle. But the family, particularly Steve, has taken a different approach with this case. And it kind of set it on this is just my opinion, on the wrong track. Because before law enforcement even got warrants back, we had people in this very chat yelling corruption. The police aren't going to solve this. They don't want to solve this. Then we hear the probable cause affidavit, and it's like they had the wheels in motion very, very early on.
They did a great job.
I think they did a great job too. I mean, imagine putting all of that together.
Yeah, the guy was out of state, albeit, 10 or 15, 20 minutes away, whatever it is. I think they did a good job. And just because, a lot of people judge their performance on what we don't know. And that's not fair. I'm telling you, that PCA, what we see in it, is a fraction of what's really in there and the information they have. And we'll see that, and then that'll change things. But I hate to see folks get ahead of themselves and get themselves all worked up. It's not good to be stressed for something that you don't have to be stressed about. I guess it's my philosophy. We just don't know.
No, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'd like to know. Look, I'm as bad as the next person. I'm dying to know, and I don't understand.
And
I don't understand.
Really sucks when we know that we have no right to this information, and that just like everybody else, we have to wait for the trial. That's just how it goes. But in the meantime, of course, we're going to discuss what facts we do have, which is a lot. When people say there's not much there, I don't know what document they were reading, but I know I had about 50 phone calls as soon as it hit. It's like, are you kidding me? This is crazy.
Right.
Lone Wolf, I went back to Discord just now. It says the subpoena stated immunity from arrest and further service. This is also why Bethany's attorney advised. And that would make a lot of sense. What I just pulled up in Discord, I need a cleaner copy. Can you email it to me? Because I can't see it very well. Thank you, though, Lone Wolf. All right, let's look at this.
The U of I murder case. Several media outlets, including CBS 2, petitioned to loosen a gag order. That gag order bars just about everyone from talking: attorneys, law enforcement agencies, and anyone else associated with the case against Bryan Kohberger. Well, today, the Idaho Supreme Court denied the petition on procedural grounds. Justices said we should have filed the complaint with the magistrate court first before bringing it to them. Kohberger's preliminary hearing is coming up in June.
All right.
They don't know where to take cases.
Do what? I guess not.
They don't know where to take their stuff.
That's what I was
Take
wondering.
it to the magistrate first.
Oh, that's what I was wondering myself. But this is what now we have a new court hearing that's coming up on May 25th at 10 a.m. Motion hearing. Goncalves motion to appeal, amend, and or clarify amended non-decimation order. That's all about the gag order. They want it loosened, or they want it to just go away altogether. The media can talk about whatever they want because they have freedom of the press. But the police cannot say anything. The DA cannot say anything. The judge wouldn't anyway. The defense can't say anything. And in a way, I think this push from the Goncalves camp is because they want to know badly what it is Bethany knows, that she would be approached by the defense, not the DA, to talk to them.
See, the defense is winning. This really aggravates me. All they did is toss that thing out in the air, and now the Goncalveses, they're upset. Everyone has questions about this poor girl. That was their intent. And now we have a court hearing because Steve wants to know what she knows. Well, just because the defense said she knows something. And I will add that in that paperwork, it said may, in quotes and underlined, may have exculpatory evidence. This whole thing really tweaks me.
Well, my question is, would you really, this is more than likely going to be a death penalty case.
Yeah.
I think they have 1 month from the prelim to decide if they're going to go for death penalty or not, which is another reason why they said we have to have a preliminary hearing. But they can do it with the grand jury as well. And that's no joke. You're going to take someone's life. And so before they go down that road, they got to know everything, and they're adding more attorneys and stuff like that. But would you really gamble with the death penalty if you really, because it's an investigator. It's this investigator that's working for the defense. What's
I
his
forget
name?
his name.
Yeah, it's right here.
His name begins with a B, I think. I can't.
Richard Bitonti.
Yeah.
Bitonti. So he's been doing his own investigation and says that she has information. Now, Ann Taylor is no joke. She knows, she's been around. She's defended death penalty cases. She would not take this gamble unless Bethany truly knows something. They would be crazy. They could lose their law license.
I just don't know why they think she knows something. From where? You know, look, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just expressing my confusion on this matter. I don't mean to sound like I know anything, because I'll be the first to say I don't. There's so much that's unknown, but it's I don't understand.
Well, I'm just trying to put reason with what seems unreasonable, because you've had attorney after attorney after attorney saying there's no reason for her to talk at the prelim.
Yeah.
But then you have, you know, this is more than likely going to be a death penalty case. We also have massive crime scene contamination. There's no way we couldn't have. So what did she know? Because they're not going to piss off this judge.
That's right. Well, that may be why her attorneys, like you said, advised her to go ahead and have this meeting, and they agreed that she didn't have to go to the hearing, and they'll meet in Nevada, and you know, that'll be that. I really don't think they're going to have any information from her, though, but that's just my guess. I don't know. I'm going to make that clear.
If they were a private law firm and they were being by Bushy and his family, then I wouldn't think anything of this. But since they have to tell the state where every penny went, then they can't be jerking around. Because that's a good
point, because they're defenders. Yeah, public defenders.
Yeah, because they're this is taxpayer money. Now they're going to Nevada to talk to her, and if they come back with a nothing burger, or that's a big deal, because they're already, trials are expensive. Investigations are very expensive.
Yeah.
All of it's really expensive. So if you're a public defender for a state and you're just treating it like a cash cow, you could be in a lot of trouble. I mean, I think they want to continue with their careers and not tank on this one.
Well, you make a very good point there. I mean, you're right. They're using state money, and if it were to turn up that they were using it in a frivolous way, right, there would be repercussions. So, yeah, I hear you there. I get it. I agree. I just, you know, I have to get over my biases too. So I recognize that. But I just, this just bothers me. I can't quite put a finger on it. I guess because I feel like she's a victim, and I know that she could very well have evidence. So, like I say, I have to get over my own biases.
No, you're fine. Everybody here loves you. Don't worry about that. Paula Volter said, "Good morning, Paula. I was about to send Dog the Bounty Hunter to find you. Where have you been, Paula? I've missed you, Paula."
Dog. I love that guy.
Don't like it when my friends go missing for too long.
Yeah. Put out an APB on YouTube.
Gonna find you. Gonna get the U.S. Marshals. Christina said, Ann Taylor will have to file for dismissal. In my humble opinion, might take a week or so to uncover corroborating evidence. You know, I don't know, because I've never seen anything like this before, and I have followed a lot of cases. But I've never seen the defense want to talk to a state's witness at a prelim. Because if she's got something that can clear him, his ass wouldn't be sitting in the clink. They said from the get, we don't want an arrest, we want a conviction.
That's right.
And this is 2023. This is not 1955. This is not the Emmett Till case. People talk. People can do their own investigations.
That's right.
We have something called the Innocence Project, where they watch these cases, and if they see something off kilter, they'll get those people out of jail.
I think that's one of the greatest things we've done in our modern society, is to do that. I can't imagine that what it's like to sit on death row and you're innocent. So that project is a godsend.
Yeah, they're doing great work. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, great work. And I am not saying that he is innocent at all. We just have questions. We just have questions. Jay Woody said, Brooks, dog says hi. Thank you, Jay Woody. Thank you. And we don't know because the probable cause affidavit doesn't have all the DNA. We don't know about the DNA from his apartment. We don't know about the DNA from his home in Pennsylvania when he was sitting there in his reindeer jammies, bagging up his own trash like a freaking weirdo. We don't know when they took that car apart piece by piece. We don't know what's in it. We have no idea.
I think it's fair to venture a guess they found some gold.
Alicia said, well, it's lunacy to decide this case when you have zero information and won't till trial. Nope, I haven't made my mind up, girlfriend. I am patiently waiting for the prelim. I can't wait to find out what Bethany has to say. Kelly said,
I hope we're not conveying that we've made a decision here, because that's not what we're discussing, right? We've not made a decision. Brooks hasn't, I haven't. I don't think people in the community here in the chat have. But you have to kind of wiggle your way through it, right? But I don't think anyone's come down with a firm judgment.
Alicia said, this business of people thinking they have some right to know before a trial, we don't. And you know what? That really puts a burr in my britches. I get so sick of that shit. I saw a community post the other day. I'm not going to say the channel because it doesn't matter. And this, I guess it's a woman, said, well, until I get more information, which I've been waiting on, I'm going to say right now that he had help and he was the getaway driver. Now, hold on there, darling. Hold on there.
I mean, there's no information that supports that, and she's waiting for information.
Yeah. I mean, don't hold your breath waiting, because I have a feeling they're not going to see your community post and say, hey, make sure we get everything we have over to her because she's all constipated and everything over there. I don't want that YouTuber upset with me. No, idiocy. And then you get people chiming in going, oh, I agree. Why aren't they giving us more?
We're not owed anything.
Because you don't have a badge?
Yeah, it's that simple.
You don't have a badge? Goodness. That's why I tell everybody here, you're not going to be impressed with my show. I don't have any evidence. I can't get warrants. I can't get CCTV. I find out along with you guys.
Yeah, it's tough when a case stretches out this long, and especially such a complicated and an unusual case, right? Where everywhere you turn with this case, you could go down a rabbit hole with, well, maybe this happened and that happened, and I could see how maybe if that happened, then this could happen. And, you can weave a web that's very complicated before you even realize it.
Well, and the longer it goes on without an actual fact-finding news break, the more people are going to get spun up, especially the ones that say, I really care about this case. You didn't know them. You've never even been to Idaho.
I know.
Gotta be kidding me.
People.
Now, I do think it's really stupid to demolish that house, but that's 100% the university. I don't think the DA could stop that.
No, and I think the DA was kind of behind it, and remember, they were ready to demolish it that one day, and they called it off. And I don't think that they made plans to do that without the okay from law enforcement. So,
and I looked at that too, and I did. I was having a conversation with someone, and we were talking about it, and actually not anyone in the chat, but somebody went to school at University of Idaho that says that school owns that town. They are biggest employer. They bring
Yeah.
a ton of money in. I mean, all their businesses are surrounded around that university. So what they say goes.
Yeah, I
There's
don't doubt it.
nothing they can do. So if
Yeah.
they say no, it's coming down because it's we don't really want this scab on our knee anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing they can do. I just think it's a hindrance to a juror that might say, look, I need to see the layout of this house because I do not see how in 20 minutes with this funky layout, it's not a 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch style. It's a weird layout. You don't know what's the front door, what's the back door. The sliding door is all like octagon and stuff.
Well, I mean, wouldn't it be a biological hazard for them to go through the home at this point?
Oh, they'll clean it up. They have crime scene cleanups. They do it in St. Louis all the time. You murder someone at 10, the house is clean at 2.
Yeah, but have they done that yet?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's what I don't know.
I'm going to make a community post and say, I want to know by 5 o'clock today if they've cleaned that house.
Be sure to say you've been waiting.
I've been waiting. Time's ticking.
Right.
Miss
That'll help.
Italy said, why is Steve still talking about clearing people too early? Well, that has been both him and his wife have said they cleared people too early. And I just have a feeling it has to do with what came out in the last week or so about how Bethany has something that could clear Bushy. Exculpatory evidence. Thank you, Carol. Look at that.
Look at you.
5 CLL members.
Wow.
Well, let's look at this clip because they explain it a little better than I can.
We're finishing today's show in Idaho, where 2 new attorneys have been added to the prosecution team in the case against accused quadruple killer Brian Kohberger. Leda County Magistrate Judge Megan Marshall granted a motion from the state requesting additional help for the county prosecutor. Deputy Attorney Generals Jeff Nye and Ingrid Beatty will now work alongside Prosecutor Bill Thompson as they tackle the high-profile case against Kohberger. He faces charges in the brutal stabbings of 4 Idaho college students taking place at an off-campus home in November. The case is still in its early stages as Kohberger sits in the Leda County Jail awaiting his preliminary hearing, which is set for late June. That hearing will determine whether or not Kohberger's case will actually go to trial and whether he'll have to submit a plea. Let's break it down. Terry, the judge issued a gag order in this case, which the Idaho Supreme Court upheld this week. What's the purpose of the gag order, and you think that was the right decision?
I do think it was the right decision, and the whole purpose of a gag order is to protect particularly the defendant, but all the parties.
Okay, and that's one thing they're not going to get around because this is such a high-profile case. Now, I will say this. In any case that we have followed on this channel, any of the Facebook groups or anything, when a privately funded law firm starts adding attorneys, well, that's someone's private money. Okay, they're paying for a good defense. Okay, but when a state-funded defense team gets more money and they add very good attorneys to help the prosecution on the state tit, we have a much deeper case than we realized. Much deeper.
Yeah.
Parties, they want to make sure that they don't taint that jury pool one way or the other. So not talking about the case is what is going to protect that jury pool. And Judge Marshall did issue a very widespread sweeping order that no one could talk to the press, not the lawyers, not law enforcement, or anyone else associated with the case. So it was a widespread order. But the Supreme Court said 5-0 that it should be in place. And it was actually the media who petitioned to say, look, we have a First Amendment right. It's freedom of the press. We should be able to talk about it. But, the Supreme Court said, no, you can't. This is just going to be too prejudicial for the parties involved, particularly defendants. So I think it was the right decision, but I'm hoping that ultimately when the trial comes, it'll be an open trial and we can all be in there listening to it and writing whatever we need to about the case.
Well, there's so many questions that we have and we're kind of filling in the pieces, guessing, but that's just the way it happens when you have a gag order in place. I completely understand, but for, someone from the media, we're trying to tell the full story, a little bit difficult. All right, Brian, former homicide public defender. Why would the prosecution look to add prosecutors to this case? I mean, what's the advantage there? And can we expect the same from Brian Kohberger's defense?
So, Jesse, a homicide case with one victim is difficult, but four and the forensic and the digital evidence all just make it that much more difficult. Lawyers don't go to school, as you know, to learn about forensics or pinging of cell phones. And so there are so many unique and specialized areas of information that an attorney needs to master. Prosecutors will often have attorneys know all of the case, but then really dive deep into one issue over the other. In terms of your second part of the question, should we expect the defense to do the same? That, unfortunately, as a former defense attorney, comes to the issue of funding. Is there enough funding to have other attorneys, defense attorneys, jump on the case to help with the specialization of pinging cell phones, forensic for this victim, forensic for that victim, the DNA on this victim. And that's when you see a robust and very strong case on both sides. And that's what I think everyone should be hoping for in order to find justice.
All right, all gears ahead towards that preliminary hearing. We'll see what happens. Brian, Terry, thank you so much. Everyone out there, thanks for joining us here on The Daily. We're going to see you next time.
Oh, you bet. Jay Lord said 1,000-page discovery in Bushy's case, 40,000 in Stout. Now, in all fairness,
A lot of phone transcripts there.
well, in all fairness, we're only a few months in to Bushy's discovery. That investigation's still going on.
That's right.
So when they said they received 1,000 pages, they're going to get way more. It took them, I mean, 2.5 years to put together all the discovery for Crazy Letitia.
It did.
You know, and my God, I mean, she gave them, she wasted a forest.
Yeah, and so the interrogations that just went on and on and on, the phone calls, that's a lot of pages.
Yep. Shay is right. Ann Taylor has gotten murderers off with technicalities. I know he deserves representation, but to get a murderer of 4 people off knowingly is disgusting. And that's the thing. Defense attorneys are a different animal. Okay. We talked about Jose Baez the other day and how offended he is that Letitia was, he was brought up in her trial. He's like, oh, I don't know who that is. I wouldn't take that case. Well, you're not licensed in Florida. Both of them. But they're a different animal. They don't even really care so much about who did what. Their only job is to defend against what the state can prove. It's all on the state.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you think about it, you're bringing, no pun intended, you're bringing a knife to a gunfight.
That's right.
Oh, sorry.
Exactly.
Not licensed in Colorado. That was stupid of me. I'm getting all turned around today. SRE said 10,000 of those pages contain the phrase yada, yada, yada. So in all fairness, they probably have about 1,000 pages of discovery for Port Little Gannon too. Because a lot of it was crazy vampires and everything.
Good. Yeah, good.
I mean, what to do? So what are we thinking? Is there really a naked guy with a hairy ass running out of the house?
No. I can't. We would have heard about that before. Look, if the police would have known that because it would have been, part of her statement. And that would be one detail in the case that nobody on the police department or in law enforcement in general could keep quiet. That's so funny.
Jesse said, I don't believe that stupid tabloid story. Said no naked guy. No naked guy. Well, I tell you who is really fired up and just adore this man. I've never talked to him, never met him, but that is Mark Klass, Polly Klass's father.
Oh, yeah. It's great, isn't he?
He really, really wants them to lay off. And he has been, there was what he went through with the case of his murdered daughter was horrific. And that was really, in my time, the first case you actually read about on the internet. And it didn't.
Polly Klass.
Yeah, it didn't take people too long to start saying, well, where was her dad? How come her dad's not around? Where's her dad? Blah, blah, blah. How come her dad? They wouldn't stop. He wasn't anywhere around. He was at every hearing, looked her killer right in the eyes, and then when the killer was being sentenced, he said that Polly had told him that her dad had been essaying her, because that's how sick the man is. But he's got some stuff to say about this, and I just think what he has done with his own tragedy has just been remarkable.
Had to testify in the courtroom after his beautiful 12-year-old daughter, Polly, was abducted and raped and murdered. And he testified, and he stared down Richard Allen Davis. And Richard Allen Davis is on death row. And Mark Klaas is live with me now from Sausalito, California. Mark, it is such an important question, what you go through as a victim's family member, you personally, from the horse's mouth. I'd love to get your take on this Bethany Funk situation and what she must be going through and the pressure that we are all under in a system of jurisprudence where everybody deserves a fair defense. What's your take?
Well, I think it's a brutal, cruel way to get this young woman to try to testify on behalf of the person that murdered her friends and her roommates. My goodness, that poor lady, everything that she's had to go through and continues to have to go through. This is probably the defining moment of her life in many ways. And they're asking her to come into a courtroom or a hearing room and face, I assume that he'll be there, that she'll have to face this guy and give evidence on his behalf. It's bad enough, Ashley, to have to go in and face these people to begin with. To have to look in the eyes or be even in the same room within proximity of the individual that changed lives, ruined lives, and altered the course of other lives. It's a very difficult thing to do.
And Mark, you were a parent. When this happened, you were a grown man. Not to suggest that, your pain was any less than Bethany's as a young woman, just in the beginning of her college career. But what was it like?
Now, he comes from a different place in his heart. He's not concerned about the 8 hours. What he went through with his daughter's murder was horrific, and the way he was treated. The man was nowhere around. People are like, well, where was he? How come he didn't have custody? Well, then he should have done something. He should have gone to find her. Are you kidding me? She was kidnapped.
Right.
She was kidnapped out of her bedroom. By the way, did Beigefield get a spray tan?
I think she did.
Yeah, she did. I wonder if that's like one of those stand-up things, like where you push the button, or if she had that airbrushed on.
Oh, those auto spray tan booths. Maybe. I don't see white circles around her eyes, so maybe.
Yeah, I think this was a true air gun. Vet Girl says, in my opinion, the AG is going to have a grand jury. No,
they missed her shirt though.
That's what I'm thinking. She keeps spray tan up. We're going to think she's naked all the time because
I know.
Like for you, when you got up on that stand and you had to look directly at Richard Allen Davis and give your testimony, what was it? Just take me there from your perspective.
Well, sure, it was surrealistic. I mean, certainly, again, facing this individual who brutally kidnapped and raped and murdered my little girl. I was looking at him and he was trying to stare me down. I don't understand what he thought. Maybe he thought I was a 12-year-old girl and I would be intimidated, but I kept his stare until he looked away. But it's unnerving, Ashley. You sweat. You feel horrible to be in the presence of pure evil and to have to deal with these things. I spoke today, after talking to your producers, I spoke today with one of the girls that was with Polly that also testified at the trial. And at the time of the trial, she was about 15 years old. And she had to face this guy. And she said that it was just so odd being in the courtroom, that she hated being there, that she couldn't stand the presence of this guy. But she said she kept trying to look at him. She wanted to look at him, but she didn't want him to look at her. And she said ultimately, by the time she finished her testimony, that her impression was that he refused to look at her. He was looking at the ground the whole time, or looking at the table. And she was able to get those glances, but I know that it was traumatizing for her. She said it was. It was one of the more difficult things she's ever had to do. And she would never want to have to repeat doing something like that again.
Mark, you have done so much for victims' rights in the years since Polly died. Would you be willing to help Bethany or Dylan if they so needed your help? Would you be able to help them navigate some of these incredible obstacles that you face that are so unique?
I'd be happy to, of course. I mean, that's what we do with the Class Kids Foundation. Our mission is to stop crimes against children, and we do that in a variety of ways. And certainly if it's helping somebody prepare their testimony or give them a psychological lift as they're approaching the having to face these characters in prison, I'd be more than happy to do that. If it would help them, absolutely.
Mark, you're such a great person, and I am always happy to talk to you. It's been a long time, and we've talked to each other many times over these years. But you're strong. You're a leader in this community, and it is a unique community. And so, thank you for all the work that you've done and what Class Kids have done. And I hope to talk to you again on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There goes Beigefield sticking her nose where it doesn't belong. Would you be willing to help Dylan and Bethany? Girlfriend, if you could get them on the show, they'd be on 24/7. They're not talking to you. What are you doing trying to get him to talk to them? Really?
She's full of herself.
Yeah. The spray tan does look nice, though.
It's even.
Yeah, it's
Not
very
blotchy.
very hard to do. If you can find someone that can spray tan you without any streaks or turn it orange or anything, you've done good.
Yeah.
I just really want her to do something with the wardrobe because, like I said, she keeps spray tanning and she wears beige. We're going to think she's naked one day.
I hope not.
Jules says, Brooks, let's chip in and send her a shirt with color. I'll put in on it. That's a really
I
good
was getting ready to respond to that. She wouldn't wear it. It would. I saw that comment.
You know what? Could you just imagine if Beigefield was wearing a Crime Lines and Lies t-shirt on her show?
Wouldn't that be the best? Wow.
Wow. That would be great.
Send her one. Got to send her one.
Vet says, LOL, her color is good. It is. It's really hard to get a spray tan like that. For those of you that don't have to get brightened up in the spring, count yourself very lucky. Do you ever get a spray tan, Glenn?
No. When I was younger, actually about this time of year, April and May, I would go to the tanning booths a little bit so that I would be ready for the beach and all of that stuff, so I didn't go to the beach the first time and get all burned up.
Yeah.
But I haven't done that in a long time.
Now, I used to do that. I would go, I would one good burn out of the way.
Right.
And build up color. And then my dermatologist showed me how ugly I was one day on one of those machines they have. And I was like, oh, man, you guys pay a lot for that.
Yeah.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've covered a lot of ground. Spray tans. Of course, I always have to bring up how Beigefield only wears one color. I don't expect
from spray tans to maypoles with a lot of good stuff in between.
Maypoles, yeah. Figuring out, are we going to have a grand jury? Now, let's ask everybody in here. What do you think is going to happen? Because some other people have joined the chat since we had a poll, not a maypole. Yeah. Do you think there's going to be a grand jury or a prelim? Christina said, you got beaches there, Okie? Yeah, at the lake.
Beaches in Oklahoma.
At the lake. Snazzy thinks it's going to be a grand jury. P said it's all going to be delayed. And I'm hoping for a prelim. I am, because I want to hear more about what's going on. Because me, myself, my curiosity, I'm trying to figure out how the dude got in and got out in 20 minutes. You would think that he would have slipped and fallen.
So I'll share my thoughts on the grand jury based on what you shared, the information you shared this morning. I think, given the fact that Bethany is going to interview with those lawyers, and that the prosecutors had scheduled a public pre-hearing, that it will go on as planned, because now they don't have to sidestep Bethany talking to the defense attorneys, and they can continue. I think they want to make sure that this trial is transparent as well. So I think they'll have that preliminary hearing. But the grand jury was a thing in their pocket that they could do if the defense, was harassing the victims. So, but if she's interviewing with them, there's no need to do that anymore.
No, and they're going down to Reno on the state dime.
Mm-hmm.
So obvious, and they can't do that. I mean, their money has to be accounted for. They can do whatever they want if it's a private defense, but when they're using the state money, they got to be real careful how they spend it.
Yeah, it's a real contrast in public defenders when you look at Koberger's defense versus Richard Allen's defense, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we always hear that, public defenders are so horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really not, because, well, I mean, that goes on their resume.
Yeah. I think in high profile cases, they really want to pull out all the stops and shine, because that builds their business and everything, right? So
I agree.
yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to start closing this down. I want to thank Lone Wolf, Carol, Snazzy, and Tarnia for the amazing donations, gift memberships. That is so wonderful. I want to thank all of you guys for continuing. I can't talk today. Continuing.
Spit it out.
Spit it out. To continue to follow this case. Lisa said, this is a public defender's dream. You're damn right.
It is. Yeah.
Damn right. You take a case like this, you can have your own law firm in a year. But we will be back in about 30 minutes to continue with the trial of Letitia Stout. Now, today, I'm not going to do a separate stream because it's too confusing. So at the 1 o'clock Central Time, I'm going to talk about what happened in Oklahoma yesterday with the 7 bodies.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people are like, I can't sit there and watch that trial all day. We'll come in at 1 o'clock and we're going to talk about what happened in Oklahoma yesterday, because it is just horrific.
Really is.
It's disgusting.
That's a crazy story.
It's a really crazy story.
And it could have been prevented if that guy stayed in jail.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he served 85% of his time. Did his probation, but I'll talk about that on there. I mean, everything
Yep.
I went through just makes me so damn mad about the whole situation.
I hear you.
So I'll see you guys back here in 30 minutes. Be there or be square. Thank you, mods. Thank you, Glenn. Always a great conversation.
Yes.
And you guys are the absolute best. I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it.
And I second that.
Woohoo!
So bam.
Bam.